This video will take us through day one of riding the C&O Trail from Washington, D.C. to Harpers Ferry. We'll start off in the middle of D.C., ride around the mall, get on the trail, and then show different sites along the way. We'll also show some maps of where we're going. So let's get into it. Let's get to the trail. After reading the book Get Up and Ride, Buddy said to me, "Hey, we need to ride the C&O and GAP trail." Seemed like a good idea. So we ended up shipping our bikes to our Holiday Inn Express in DC, got on a plane in Pittsburgh, and then flew and met our bikes there. Once we got there, we assembled our bikes in the lobby, and then the next morning we started off. First, we had to get from our hotel to the mile zero marker. Basically, we're going to take a path that took us past the White House, down to the Washington Monument, right up the mall, around the Lincoln Memorial, and then take a path along the Potomac, and then find that elusive mile zero marker that so many people seem to have troubles with. We woke up the next morning. It had rained the night before, so the streets were a little slick, but we were ready to ride. So we hopped on our bikes and headed out towards the mall. The bike lanes in DC are actually remarkably good. The tricky part is when coming to intersections, they can be quite busy with a lot of traffic. So we rolled up to the Washington Monument, and of course we had to take some snaps there. Down to the mall, you can look back towards the Washington Monument and down towards the Lincoln Memorial. So from there, we crossed in front of the Lincoln Memorial, came around a path to the right, and then we're going to head towards the Potomac and pick up a bike path along the Potomac. So we crossed several roads until you almost can't go any further, and you could take a right here, and then this path follows the Potomac all the way down to where the boathouse is, where the mile zero marker is. You can see the city off there in the distance. It's a nice view along here, a lot of interesting buildings. Wish I'd had some better video footage of this. So we're riding up along the green line there, which is the bike trail. And what you're looking for is signs for the boathouse. You're going to take a left onto that road. It's going to take a bridge over part of the river there, and then it's going to loop around. There's a boathouse, and you keep following along the front of that boathouse along the Potomac, and then you will find the mile zero marker. So you come across the front of the boathouse in their paved section. You'll see this wooden fence. Go down the path, cross the little bridge, and there is the mile zero marker. I left a pair of glasses there, so if you find them, send them to me. Of course, you got to grab a few pictures of you and the mile zero marker to demonstrate that you were actually here. So our trail is going to take us about 61 miles from DC to Harpers Ferry. Our first major point of interest will be Great Falls, which is a beautiful set of rapids along the Potomac that's worth spending some time on. We were hoping to catch lunch at White's Ferry. Unfortunately, we didn't check when White's Ferry was actually open. The White's Ferry deli was closed on Mondays, so from there we had to pedal on to Point of Rocks, where we found an Exxon station that actually made some pretty good subs and loaded up on water. So the big lesson learned there was always check the availability of the place that you're planning on being. Stopping at Point of Rocks was a bit out of the way, but we did see some interesting things there, which we'll touch on in the video. And then it was on to Harpers Ferry. So lots of locks along the way, lots of lock houses to see, aqueducts, so pretty ride. The trail starts off quite bumpy. Probably about halfway through we started to see a trail that was more compact and smoother surface. So let's ride. So we came out of the boathouse area, take a left onto this bike lane along the road, and then we hit the official start of the national park. So here we're on the paved portion of a path. If you notice to the right, there was the actual C&O trail. We thought, oh wow, we're in luck. We're going to be able to ride the paved path. But it turned out the paved path turned off and went in a different direction. So we had to hike our bikes down to the real trail. The real trail is at this portion is quite bumpy, and you'll notice that the camera kind of jitters around quite a bit. So in the C&O trail, about a third of it is this really bumpy surface, a third of it is kind of this crushed limestone surface, and a third of it is dirt, tire tracks. It had rained the night before, so there were quite a few puddles along the way. In this portion, there's water in the canal, and you can see the lock on the right-hand side there. Some of them had the gates still intact. A lot of the locks that we saw had a lock house associated with it, and several of these lock houses were actually places that you could rent and stay at. You had to provide your own linens. So we're doubling back to a path that goes down to a set of rapids. This is just past that first lock house that we went by. Gerard wants to see the rapids. Let's go take a look. So we went down this path and take us down to the Potomac to a set of rapids, but what we found there was a slalom course for whitewater kayaking. So it was kind of cool. And you could see one of the several faces of the Potomac. Some places it rages in some pretty serious rapids, and other places it's as smooth as glass. And this is one of the places where it gets very wide and is smooth. Another lock and another lock house. At this point, they're doing maintenance work on the trail, so you had a detour, and then you get onto this kind of almost mulch surface, very soft. Winds up to a road that you follow for a ways. Some uphill pedaling. It was well marked off, isolated from traffic, very clear where to go. Now from here, you really had to walk your bike down. You didn't dare to ride down this. You can see the trail down there. A little tricky with bike shoes on. But we're back on the path. This is, we're starting to get to Great Falls. This area opens up, very still water, very pretty area, lots of granite outcroppings of rock. Here's another lock that was pretty large, pretty deep. I was kind of surprised how narrow some of these locks were. The boats that went through there must have been pretty narrow. Another set of locks, another lock house. Sometimes the locks will almost be fully functional. Some of them will be kind of in disrepair with water flowing through them. Other ones will be have grass mowed in them. I believe this was what they called a guardhouse. It was one of the places where they would do flood control, and they could drop down barriers if the water was getting to be too much. This is getting very close to Great Falls. It's amazing how much the Potomac meanders from one side to the other. So at Great Falls, park a bike and then walk out. I wish I'd put my flip-flops on here. I tried walking with my bike shoes, and that wasn't a great idea. But a very pretty area that you get these bridges that span different parts of the rapids that come down through here. Then this is the end of that walkway where you get out to the main rapids. Definitely worth taking a little bit of time here. And back on the trail with more locks. This set of locks was near Great Falls and had more of a kind of a museum visitor center feel to it. Had a replica of a barge that would have gone along the canal. Good place to stop, use the facilities, clean up a little bit, and then back on the road. You can see the trail here is that crushed limestone. And you hit these wide open areas. They would usually have a porta pot, a grill, a water spigot. You really can't drink out of the water spigots. They're non-potable. Lots of camping areas. This is the first aqueduct we came across. It's pretty big. You get a really nice view of the Potomac off to the left. So somewhere between mile 20 and 24, the path really smooths out a lot. You don't get all that stones. And then the river really widens out. Very smooth. It was a pretty hot day, but with the canopy of trees over the trail made it a lot more comfortable. Another aqueduct. This is a pretty big aqueduct we rode through. Came across a group of school kids. So this is where we came to Point of Rocks. We were going to head off into town. We had just gotten our subs at the Exxon station. We're riding back into town. It wasn't that far off the beaten trail. There's a fairly large parking area here, and that takes you down next to the railroad tracks, and then right next to the railroad tracks was this really pretty train station. It would be interesting to know a little bit more about this area. Long parking lot, and at the end of the parking lot, there was this monument, and then on the monument were flood levels. So you see those lines on there. That was different years, different flood levels. So there's some pretty serious flooding that goes on in this area. Once we were done checking that out, we're gonna head back to the trail. Aside from White's Ferry, where that deli was, this was really the only next place where we could stop and get water and food. I thought that there would be more places along the trail to get water. Like I said, there are a lot of spigots, hand pumps along there where you could get water, but it was not potable. So it would be really important to bring a water filter. I actually had one that I'd filled with water and a bee-free, a catadine filter. I had it in my bag in the back, and because of the bumpiness of the trail, it actually fell out, so I didn't have my water filter with me, but I would highly recommend having a water filter. So we ride over the railroad tracks and then back down to the trail. Another aqueduct we ride through. The amount of engineering that went into this, putting this canal together, is pretty astonishing. And this is one of the things that I liked about riding from DC. Oh, here's another detour. The bridge was out, so we rode our bikes down here. One of the things I liked, it's all uphill from here to Cumberland, but it's stair steps because of the locks. No way I'm riding down that. So you'd be riding along flat, you come to a lock, there'd be this kind of quick uphill, and then it would flatten out again. And that's what the barges needed. They needed a flat water surface, and then the locks would step the boats up or down. So hike a bike up out of the detour, get back on the trail, and ride on. Now we're getting really close to Harpers Ferry. And this is a tricky part. You have to get your bike up this pretty long stairway. We wound up carrying our bags up and then carrying the bikes up. You can see it's yeah, you don't want to do this with an electric bike. This is pretty steep. This takes you up to a railroad bridge. It's got both a railroad and a bike path on it. Up and up we go. When we were coming up, a train went by on the other tracks, coming out of the tunnel there. You cross over the Potomac. And then there's the town. We were staying at the Comfort Inn in town. View of the Potomac. And the bridge that we came across. Get on the road and head out of town to the Comfort Inn. More stuff to see along the road. There's some old ruins on both sides of the road. Also, the Appalachian Trail goes through Harpers Ferry. They have an Appalachian Center, and so we'd see hikers coming into town. Kind of flat coming out of town, and then you hit this little bit of a hill. Kind of done with riding at this point, so but up the hill we go. That's actually the Appalachian Trail there, I believe, off to the right. Kind of follows the road a little bit and then heads off up into the woods. Follow this down. There's the Comfort Inn. Go up Union Street here. Quality Inn, I'm sorry. Not the Comfort Inn. Take a left up the steep driveway. And we're home for the day. We put in about 70 miles this day since we had to go off track. So that concludes day one. Quality Inn was good. Breakfast was so-so, not great. But they had a bike cleaning station and first floor rooms. So comfortable room. Day one. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button and subscribe.